Thoughtbot. Battle of the Bots. Here is a short story about three unusual robots who compete for control of a young inventor's mind, revealing three stages of thought: thoughts about thoughts, thoughts that undo thoughts, and thoughts that give way to the quiet wisdom of love. Felix was a brilliant young inventor who built robots from discarded radios, clocks, kitchen appliances, and computer parts. His favorite creation was a shiny little robot named Loop-de-Loop. Loop-de-Loop had spinning eyes, a flashing antenna, and a screen across his chest that displayed every thought Felix had ever believed. The moment Felix woke each morning, Loop-de-Loop began talking. "You have a busy day. What if something goes wrong? Remember what happened last Tuesday? What does everyone think about you? What do you think about what they think?" Loop-de-Loop could turn one thought into 10 before Felix finished brushing his teeth. Felix believed this made the robot intelligent. "Look how many ideas he produces," he proudly told his friends. But the more Loop-de-Loop talked, the more tired Felix became. Every judgment activated a memory. Every memory produced an explanation. Every explanation created a new problem requiring another thought. Loop-de-Loop was not helping Felix think. Loop-de-Loop was thinking Felix. One afternoon, Felix decided to improve his invention. He built a second robot named Undo 2. Undo 2 was smaller and quieter. Instead of collecting thoughts, he questioned them. Whenever Loop-de-Loop announced, "You are not good enough," Undo 2 replied, "Is that true?" When Loop-de-Loop warned, "The future will repeat the past," Undo 2 said, "The past is not happening now." When Loop-de-Loop declared, "You are the person your history says you are," Undo 2 responded, "You remain as love created you." Loop-de-Loop did not appreciate this. "You are deleting valuable information," he shouted. "I am collapsing unsupported programs," Undo 2 replied. The two robots began competing. Loop-de-Loop built complicated arguments. Undo 2 unplugged them. Loop-de-Loop projected frightening images onto the wall. Undo 2 switched on the light. Loop-de-Loop created a maze of explanations. Undo 2 asked one simple question: "Does this thought lead to love?" The workshop became the scene of a great battle of the bots. Loop-de-Loop rolled in circles, shouting, "Think faster! Analyze everything! You need one more answer." Undo 2 followed calmly behind him, saying, "Pause, question, choose again." Felix stood between them, increasingly confused. Then something unexpected happened. A third robot appeared in the workshop doorway. Felix had not built this one. The robot was smooth and luminous, with no flashing screens, spinning gears, or noisy machinery. Across its chest was one name: Thy Way. "Who are you?" Felix asked. The robot's voice was quiet. "I am Thy Way, the reminder that your thoughts can give way to the thoughts of love." Loop-de-Loop laughed mechanically. "That makes no sense. Truth requires analysis, data, comparison, memory, prediction, and at least 14 supporting explanations." Thy Way remained still. Undo 2 turned toward the luminous robot. "I collapse false thoughts," he said. "What do you do?" "I do not manufacture or collapse thoughts," Thy Way replied. "I reveal what remains when they are no longer needed." Loop-de-Loop's eyes spun faster. "Nothing remains." Thy Way looked at Felix. "Would you like to find out?" Felix hesitated. He had spent years trusting the noise in his head. Without it, he feared he might become empty. But he was tired of being carried around by every thought his mind produced. "What do I have to do?" he asked. "Nothing complicated," said Thy Way. "Stand still and listen." Loop-de-Loop immediately sounded an alarm. "Danger! Stillness detected. Produce more thoughts." He began firing sentences into the room. "What if this does not work? What if silence is boring? What if you disappear? What will everyone think?" Undo 2 responded to each thought. "That is not happening. That is only a prediction. That thought has no authority. That can be released." One by one, Loop-de-Loop's programs lost momentum. His spinning eyes slowed. His antenna stopped flashing. Finally, the workshop became quiet. Felix waited. At first, the silence felt unfamiliar. Then he noticed it was not empty. It was spacious, warm, whole. He felt no need to explain himself or become someone else. He did not need to solve the future or defend the past. Behind every thought, love had remained. Loop-de-Loop looked around nervously. "What should I think now?" Thy Way smiled. "You do not need to think yourself into existence." Undo 2 powered down gently. His work was complete. Felix finally understood the three stages. First came thoughts about thoughts, endlessly building the identity he believed he was. Then came thoughts that collapsed those thoughts, helping him question what had never been true. Finally, his thoughts gave way to thy thoughts, not more mental noise, but the recognition of a wisdom that had always been present. There had never truly been a battle between powerful enemies. There had only been noise, correction, and the quiet truth beyond both. Felix placed Loop-de-Loop on a shelf. The little robot still activated from time to time. "You should worry about tomorrow," he would announce. Felix no longer argued with him. He simply smiled and said, "Thank you, ThoughtBot. I do not need that program." Then he paused long enough to hear Thighway's quiet reminder, "If it is not love, it is not." May we sing, rest, and dance our way home together.